Okay, welcome back. I'm a little behind on these videos, so I'm going to do my best to try to stay up to date. I'm very much aware it is Boxing Day as I am filming this, so I'm a couple of days behind on my reviews for week number 16 of the NFL season. And there were two games yesterday on Christmas Day, and I did circle them, but I didn't have a chance to upload my previews for week number 17. So I'll be doing that right away as soon as I'm done filming this one. So heading into week number 16, I had a record of 157 and 67. We'll see how I did with my picks. So starting on Thursday Night Football, we had an AFC West showdown between the Los Angeles Chargers, who were 8-6, and the Denver Broncos, who were 9-5. I did predict Denver to win. I thought they could have won this game. Unfortunately, they showed up in the first half, and in the second half, they had absolutely no run game. And the final score, as you can see, would be 34-27 in favor of the Chargers. So it would be a one-possession game, but unfortunately, the team I cheer for didn't come away with the victory. So I was 0-1 at this point. Now, there were two Saturday games, I do believe. Yes, there were. And the first one took place in Kansas City as the Chiefs played host to the Houston Texans. Now, I did think, because I heard and I seen that Mahomes got injured the week before, so he was likely to be kind of like day-to-day, week-to-week kind of a thing, but he ended up coming back playing in this game, and they dominated 27-19. I thought that it was Carson Wentz was the starter, that Houston would have a bit more of an advantage. Unfortunately, it did not pan out, and 27-19 would be the final score in favor of the Chiefs. So started off 0-2, not that great. But I would finally get one right. Here we go. In the AFC North, we had the 9-5 Baltimore Ravens taking on the 10-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Ravens would go on to win. They both would have identical records at 10-5, respectively. I should have also mentioned that because the Chargers beat Denver, they both are 9-6, and the Chiefs are 14-1, and the Houston Texans are 9-6 after their loss to Kansas City. All right, I believe the rest of the games take place on Sunday and Monday, respectively. Starting in Atlanta, as the Falcons, who benched Kirk Cousins, would play the New York Giants. 34-7 would be the final score. I did predict that the Giants would win. I didn't think they would win by 27 points, or I did predict that the Falcons would win, but I didn't think they'd win by 27 points. But they did. So with that, the Falcons are now 8-7. After the loss, the Giants are 2-13. The next matchup had the 3-11 Carolina Panthers taking on the 7-7 Arizona Cardinals. I did predict that Arizona would get the victory in this one because they needed the win in order to stay in not only the NFC West title, first place, but potentially, if they won, they could have also staved off elimination in the wild card round as well. This game would go to overtime, and the Panthers would upset the Cardinals 36-30, ending the Cardinals' hopes and dreams of making it into the postseason, because after the loss, they dropped to 7-8, and it'd be impossible at this rate for them. It's impossible for them to make the postseason because they're just so far behind in a wildcard position and a NFC West title as well. All right, off to the NFC North, where we had the Chicago Bears playing against the Detroit Lions. I was bold on this one. I thought that because of how the Bears lost on Thanksgiving, they'd have a chip on their shoulder. They'd want to prove that they can beat the Lions. They were close when they played each other a few weeks ago, but I was totally wrong on this pick. 34-17 would be the final score in favor of the Detroit Lions, who have now improved to 13-2. And after the loss, the Chicago Bears have dropped to 4-11. Alrighty. The next one took place in Indy as the Colts played host to the Tennessee Titans. I did predict that Indy would get the win. They needed this in order to stay in contention for a playoff position, a wild card spot. They would win by a final score of 38-30. So they're now sitting at 7-8. They're just one game below 500, and they're still in the chase for a playoff position. After the loss, the Tennessee Titans have dropped to 3-12, and needless to say, I'm sure they're looking forward to next year's draft. All right, the New York Jets played host to the Los Angeles Rams. I did predict that LA would get the victory. They did. 19-9 would be the final score. They have now improved to 8-6. I believe the Rams are in first place in the NFC West division, if I'm not mistaken. And after the loss, the Jets have now dropped to 4-11. All right, now we're off to the NFC East, as we had one hell of a game between the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Phillies. Philly needed this win in order for them to have secured the NFC East title. Unfortunately, they fell 3 points short. 36-33 would be the final score. With the win, Washington is now improved to 10-5, and after the loss, the Eagles are 12-3. So this division is still up for grabs, but it's more than likely, in my opinion, that the Eagles should win at least one of their final two games in order to secure that NFC East title. And as for the Washington Commanders, even if they don't finish as the favorites or as the as long as even if the Commanders don't finish in a win the NFC East, my God, cat's got my tongue, they're still guaranteed to be a wild card team. And they'll be just as dangerous on the road as if they were at home. And I was wrong on this pick as well. Now we're off to the AFC North as the Cincinnati Bengals played host to the Cleveland Browns. I did predict that Cincinnati would get the win, and they're in a similar position as the Colts. They were both 6-8 heading into this matchup, needing this victory in order to secure or possibly pursue a playoff position. 24-6 would be the final score in favor of the Bengals. They are now sitting at 7-8, and after the loss, the Browns are 3-12. All right, now we're off to Seattle as the Seahawks played host to the Minnesota Vikings. I did predict that Minnesota would get the win, and they did. 27-24 would be the final score, improving the Vikings' record to 13-2. And after the loss, the Seahawks are 8-7. And I think after the loss, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Seahawks are actually currently out of a playoff position right now. So it's going to be a close, it'll be a hell of an ending to the last 2 weeks of the season, especially in that NFC West, because even with the loss, they're just a game behind the Rams, if I'm not mistaken. So anything can happen in between week 17 and 18, respectively. As for the Vikings, it's hard to believe they're 13-2 and they're still in second place in their division. It's so crowded at that NFC North. In that NFC North, it blows my mind how great all three the teams are in that division. All right, now we're off to the AFC East as we had the Buffalo Bills playing host to the New England Patriots. I thought the Bills would have ran away with this game personally, but it was a close game. 24-21 would be the final score. They did improve to 12-3 on the season. They've already clinched the division. I'm pretty sure they clinched it about 2 or 3 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. And after the loss, the Patriots have now dropped to 3-12. For the Bills, they're in a bit of a pickle because, yes, you've already secured home field. You already secured your division, which means you already have guaranteed one home playoff game. The question now is going to be, can they even catch the Chiefs? I don't think so, personally. But still, if they finish as a number 2 seed, at least they're guaranteed, if they win, a wild card and a divisional home game, which could be very beneficial to your team. Okay, now we're off to Las Vegas as we had the Raiders playing host to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought the Jags would win this one only because it didn't look like Vegas had much of an offense when they played the Falcons in week number 15. So I went with my gut, and my gut was clearly wrong on this particular pick. 19-14 would be the final score in favor of the Raiders. They are now sitting at 3-12 on the season, and after the loss, the Jaguars have the exact same record. All right, now we're off to Miami as the Dolphins played host to the San Francisco Giants. Both these teams are sitting at 6-8. Both these teams needed a victory in order to keep their playoff hopes alive. The Dolphins would come away with a win. They're now sitting at 7-8, just like the Colts and just like the Bengals. All three teams are still alive and hoping that they can make a miraculous playoff run. After the loss, the San Francisco 49ers dropped to 6-9. They have now officially been eliminated from the postseason, which is sure a heartbreak, but injuries really hurt this team. You want to talk about a Super Bowl hangover? Not only did they lose the Super Bowl, but they weren't even able to make it back to the playoffs the following season. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of question marks, a lot of changes, whether it's in the offseason, whatever the case may be, is for the 49ers, because I'm sure they would still love to be considered a playoff team next year or a Super Bowl team as well. A very disappointing season, to say the least. All right, the Sunday night game took place in Dallas as we had the Cowboys playing host to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just because their records were opposite, I did predict that Tampa would come away with the victory. They lost narrowly. 26-24 would be the final score. Dallas, they're sitting at 7-8 on the season. And as for the Buccaneers, they're 8-7. So I'm pretty sure the Bucs are basically tied with the Falcons for first place in that division. I never would have thought that the division would be this close, especially how poorly the Falcons were playing up until week 16. I thought this division was guaranteed to be the Bucs. It still can be. They still have 2 more games to play. So obviously 2 more wins, and they're guaranteed to get that NFC South crown yet again. And the last game took place on Monday. And you want to talk about a one-sided affair? The Green Bay Packers played host to the New Orleans Saints. 34-0, the first shutout of the season for the Packers, so good on them. With that, they have now officially secured a playoff position. They're guaranteed to finish as a wildcard team. They can't catch Detroit for the NFC North, so it's just a matter of positioning, whether they finish 6th or 5th, if they can catch up to the Vikings. But at least they have secured a playoff position in this year's playoffs. So they've improved to 11-4. After the loss, the Saints are 5-10. Alrighty, that's going to take care of my recap for week number 16 in the NFL season. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. Until next time, and as always, take care.